Right, so I'm just kind of working on one of these paintings at the moment. This is just a little project I've decided to do for myself. I won't keep it, I'll probably sell it, something like that, because the thing is, you try and keep every single painting that you paint, and your cupboards become full of paintings, don't they? So this is obviously a long-tailed tit on some catkins. So what I want to do is work out where some of these catkins go. I'm just going to look at my photograph. I kind of position them on there. These are very tiny little squiggle marks I'm making with my 00 brush at the moment, just to kind of work out where it all goes. I'll zoom in a little bit for you on that one, so you can just see a bit more what I'm working on. There you go, that's a bit better, isn't it? Don't go too close, otherwise you won't see the long-tailed tit there. So this still needs highlighting, yeah, still got to go in some watercolour white and get some highlights on there. So I've got 1, 2, 3 catkins to do. So using some alizarin crimson and a little bit of, so I think French ultramarine, but this second layer is more on the French ultramarine side than the alizarin crimson side. Let's bring my photo down so you can just see what I'm working on there, because it tends to get a little bit hidden sometimes by the camera stand. This side is quite dark on here as well, so I just thought I'd quickly show you what I'm working on here. Well, I say quickly. What I'll just do this little area here. I'm going to speed forward, a little bit of speed painting going on. Well, not speed painting, but you know what I mean. Speed videoing. And you'll see what I'm working on for the rest of it. And I kind of speed it through, put a little bit of music to it. So I'm going to go in with a darker colour now. So this is kind of lamp black with a little bit of alizarin crimson in there. But I don't want to cover all this up, because obviously where it is, I think it kind of peeks around inside there as well. So I'm going to put a little dark area there and work my way, squiggle motions, shaky hand, ideal for this, really is, all the way down to this one here, but doing little tiny little circles all the time to get the texture, which is what I need. As I said, I will go over this in places, not too much though, with some watercolour white. Just kind of bring it to life a little bit more kind of sparkle on there, which is what I want to do. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to continue with these two now. So I've already got the washes on those, you can see. Mixture of alizarin crimson, a little bit of yellow ochre in there, as you can see, and a touch of French ultramarine. Just kind of get the kind of background foundation colours on there. So I'm going to crack on with these, and what I'm going to do is go to a little bit of music, okay? So I'll see you shortly when these two areas are done, and then start working on putting the little highlights over the top. Alright, so I'll see you in a little bit. Right, so there we go. That's the dark, kind of dark layer. This is a mixture of lamp black, a little bit of French ultramarine, and also a bit of alizarin crimson. So I just want to get those in there to kind of work out where the shadow areas underneath all these different ones are overlapping one another here. So it's quite dark around there actually. I just add a little bit more into there. And I think, looking at that, that's probably it for this layer of paint. So now, what I need to do is head to the watercolour white. Let's get that on. Now, watercolour white has been a good friend of mine for quite a long time. I do use it a lot. I know there's a lot of controversy over watercolour white or black, but so when I paint as well, I prefer to do it. So I think I'll probably start over this side here. I'm just going to zoom into my photograph a little bit. But the thing with watercolour white as well, you don't want to add too much. If you put too much on, then therefore it will just deaden the colour on there, which you don't want to do. Just going to look at my picture there. So looking at that, there's a bit of an area around this little bump, just around there. Just add a tiny bit in. That's all you need, just a little bit. As I say, too much it will look far too false, and you'll find you'll end up kind of trying to cover it up. So just be gentle with it. Sometimes you can blend it as well, don't forget. If you want to blend the watercolour white down, you can. You can use gouache as well, it's quite good. I've even used white acrylic, which is also kind of good means of getting the white paint on the paper. It's still water based obviously, but it's not watercolour as such. Well, it is, but you know what I mean. It's not one that people always use alongside watercolour, but gouache they do. So a few little highlights ticking along the branches. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work my way all the way along the branches, and then once I've done that, I'll work on all this lovely area here. I'll try and get those done. Alright. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover all these branches along here now. Now you can see what I'm doing. You see the method I'm using, just watercolour white or white gouache, doesn't really matter which. And while I'm doing this and get all these areas done, I kind of go to a little bit of speed painting on the screen. I can't really paint that fast, honestly. And just a little bit of music. Now I've got a little bit of yellow ochre. I just want to touch in, not all of it, just some of the areas, so it's not all the same. Because it can look a bit too stark, it's a little bit too white, if you know what I mean. So just a touch of yellow ochre and maybe even a bit of burnt sienna, just to tap over the top of some of this white, just so it's not too bright. So I'm just touching these in bit by bit, just a little bit. So a few touches here and there. As I said, I don't want it too bright in places, just a few. And then once that's done, I can then come back in. I'm going to leave the rest of them there, just about those I think, and then start working on the catkins. Now I'm going to start down the bottom here first. So what I'll do, I'll zoom in that a little bit for you so you can just see what I'm working on. Right, so I'm going to head back to my watercolour white. Now I want to mix this to probably like a creamy consistency, but I don't want much on the brush. I'm going to wipe a lot of the paint off the brush on purpose, because I don't want to overdo it really on these. Otherwise you'll kind of kill all that colour underneath. So the same as the way I did the other catkins on the other side of the paper, just little squiggle motions, that's all I'm doing. Tiny little squiggles. Just a little shaky hand. Now this brush is nearly dry, as you can see, it's barely even touching on there. This is the bottom of the paper, by the way, down there, so it doesn't continue further on, so don't worry. So kind of working this around, looking at where they'll go. Try not to outline things with black, white, whatever colour you do, because if you start putting outlines on things, it's going to start looking a bit too cartoony. If you want a feeling of realism, not realistic, not hyper-realistic, just like a realistic feel, then this is what I'd recommend that you do, okay? So just keep it nice and light, barely touching the paper. That's all I'm doing here. Just with this 00 brush. And anybody asking, wanting to know what the brush size is, you're welcome to put a comment below. Anything you need to ask about, please go ahead. I don't mind. I don't bite, honestly. No, I don't bite, honestly. So put a comment down below and do my utmost to kind of answer your query. Please keep it kind as well, alright? Not that you shouldn't do. I know you wouldn't. You wouldn't do that to me, I know. Right, so tiny little squiggle motions, barely touching the paper. I do not want to overdo it, that's for sure. And then all the way down to about here, I think. I'm not trying to go into the dark area because that is supposed to be dark. So otherwise you kill all the dark over there, won't you? So bear that in mind. Right, so same applies again. I'm going to start working on the rest of these now. And while I'm doing that, I'll pop to a little bit of music and I'll see you shortly when they're nearly or just about done. See you in a minute. that's that little bit there. I'm trying to get a little bit brighter in place where just using the paint that touch thicker. That's all. So adding a little bit less water to the neat tubed paint that I get there. So just one to go. No, just this last one down here, it's a little tiny one. So this actually goes around the back here, but because it goes into the shadow, you can't really see it. So you've got the stem or the area coming down and then around. That's how that one actually works, but you can't really see where it goes. You know, one thing I've always been taught as well, I say taught, my uncle, who's an artist, taught me once. He said to me, Paul, he said, if you can't see it, you can't paint it, okay? So just paint what you see. And I always remembered that. So for my uncle Peter Hopkinson, there you go. Bit of an advert for him. So I keep tapping along, that's all I'm doing. Think of that little kind of very light spidery web. Very fine. Kind of things that you walk into when you first thing in the morning. These fine cobwebs in the air. You think, oh, where's that come from? So, I know, I've done it many times. So that's just about it, as you can see now. And remember to click on like, share, and if you don't mind, if you are on YouTube or anything like that, please subscribe to this video. So there you go. I'll talk to you soon, and bye bye for now.